Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Malang Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Cody Pelle, the founder of Frankly, a company dedicated to helping small businesses compete against corporate giants through targeted marketing support. His work zeroes in on underserved entrepreneurs with practical tools and strategies that level the playing field, as seen in Frankly's recent launch of services for straightforward, soul-revealing communication. From his base in the Cincinnati area and Northern Kentucky University background, Cody drives this mission via his platform startspeakingfrankly.com, delivering real impact for founders ready to stand out. With that being said, Cody, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you. Oh, it's great to be here.
Man, it's great to have you. I'm excited about this conversation, so we're just going to jump right in. And how I love to open up with every single one of my guests is with a bit of traveling back in time. So before you launched this current company of yours, what was that journey like for you? And then eventually, what was the motivation for even getting into the space?
Yeah, sure. So to go all the way back, I grew up in a town called Silver Grove, Kentucky, and my grandpa owned the corner bar and restaurant. You know, it was kind of the community staple where everybody would come together for dinner and things like that. And my first job, actually, when I was 14, was cooking steaks at his place. You know, we'd have steak nights on Thursdays, and the whole community would show up, all our friends and family, and I would kind of be in charge of cooking the steaks, making sure everybody was happy with their dinner and things like that. So really, I think that established my love for like a local business, for the small business world. From there, went to school, like you said, Northern Kentucky University, and began my work in the agency space after that. Started out as kind of like a social media coordinator, but then from there, took on jobs as a copywriter at my first agency, and then kind of did the copywriting thing. But instead of sort of the traditional copywriting work, I always tried to take a brand centered approach toward copywriting, you know, copy that is influenced by a solid brand and helping to set that foundation. So from there, after working in that space for 7, 8 years, I kind of realized that well, A, I loved small businesses. B, those are the businesses that I really want to help, the local businesses that have the most soul. And C, like, I think I have an avenue to do that because, you know, when you see a small business trying to tell their story properly, they kind of have three options. They can hire an agency, have an in-house team, or just kind of roll with it and see what happens. And usually those first two options are not really financially suitable for what they need to do and what they're looking to accomplish. So I set out to found, frankly, to be that fourth option, right? You know, it's a smaller group. We're a group of two. So we don't really have that agency size. So we can come in at a much more competitive price point. And then we also have the team between me and my partner, Zach, to give businesses everything they need to tell their story functionally.
Yeah, I love it, man. When it comes to the marketing space, like everybody has a sort of a different angle towards their offer, but the industry stay the same and the targeted group stays the same. But you really love small businesses from the way you talk about it. It sounds like that's where the passion lies, which I absolutely love because you're 100% correct. You know, for the majority of those people, it ends up with them just kind of like winging that and just be like,
Yep.
hey, I'm gonna Google my way through it. Which
Yep.
most of the time is just not going to be enough. So I love to see this. Now, when it comes to those small businesses, I think this is very clear. We understand who it is that you're targeting, but when it comes to the journeys that those clients go through, I'm curious, when it comes to your core offerings, what would you say is currently that really specific service that you focus on? What does it look like from day one for you to really be in a position where you can impact that company? Tell us more about the whole process.
Yeah. I think the easiest answer for that is to kind of point toward my framework. You know, I built this framework, you know, through my time in the agency space with, you know, working on much larger clients and then constantly like restructuring. How could this look for a smaller business? Like what's the one-to-one comparison there? And the goal of that framework is if we walk through it together, on the other end of it, you will have a much better understanding of who you are as a business, who you're going after, who your target audience is, and how you're going to communicate with them. You know, setting that foundation to me is the key to communication success in general, because you now have a justified roadmap. That's a big thing that I believe in, is if you're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, most of it isn't going to be justified, and it's not going to connect with people for that reason. So I firmly believe that, good storytelling, having that strong foundation, will give you the connections you're looking for.
Yeah. Is it all about copywriting and getting clarity around the messaging, or have you like evolved in terms of the agency spirit and like
Yeah,
slowly just putting more on top of it, or how does that work with the structure?
yeah. I think the copywriting is more of the back end execution piece, whereas the strategy up front is critical. In my
Mm.
opinion, you can't really do good copywriting on the back end if you don't have that foundation in place.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned this though, and I'm also glad that I asked you that question because what I was thinking about is though that there's going to be a lot of people where you can literally come from a place of like, hey, I'm going to do this for you. So it's going to be a done for you angle, but also there is a lot of people who could just use you as a consultant and literally show them
Mm-hmm.
what to do, right? So when it
Sure.
comes to comparing those two, I think on the side of done for you, you would also have to build out the team a little bit more in the future if you want to scale. But this could be a little bit different on the side of consulting. So I'm curious having that most scalable model in place, what do you think is going to be the priority for you?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. We definitely, so like I said, we have a team of two, and we've done this for years. We actually worked at a previous agency together. So we've done literally this framework for businesses for years and years. Um, and now we're just doing it kind of on our own terms in a different way, aiming at a different sort of clientele, which has been super exciting. But to your point about the consulting versus the back end execution, first of all, I think my biggest thing that I want to get across is that it should be a partnership every step of the way with the client, because all too often I've seen it in the agency world where there's really great work being done and then just passed to the client. It's like, all right, here you go, good luck, without sort of giving that empowering piece on the back end to make sure that they understand exactly what tools they have and how to use them. So I think the partnership approach is a huge piece of what Frankly brings to the table. But then on the back end, as far as executing that back end work, so I have my background in copywriting. Zach Eklund, my partner, has his background in design. So those are kind of the two foundational pieces. But when you go beyond that, if you need professional photography, videography, anything in that realm, any sort of creative service, we have a Rolodex of freelance partners that we've worked with for years, that we can point people towards. And that's kind of the end goal is, I want to invite potential client, our customers into this community where we can continue to, have an ongoing sort of relationship that they can continue to execute the work that we built for them. So they're never like going it alone. But also whenever they need a specific service, we have this thing where we need a big video shoot. Okay, cool. Well, this is Steve. He's our videographer friend. I want to bring him into the fold because we trust him, we know him, and we know he'll do great work for you.
Yeah, this is different. I like it. When it comes to the agency world, though, like obviously majorly it's a retainer business, right? So if you look at it from the perspective of your client, the majority of agencies will make you feel like, hey, I'm going to be dependent on you for the rest of my life if I want to have a good marketing. Now, on
Right.
the other hand, you're talking about like, hey, you should still be involved as a client. You need to learn with us. You need to understand this, which is, I think, a super unique angle that you have towards this. So I love to see it. Now, in terms of getting those clients, you mentioned a couple of interesting things. One of those was, well, you have a community of other freelancers that you can connect. So maybe that's a source of leads for you guys to have the ability to onboard new and new clients. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, just looking at your current marketing strategy, what is it that you guys do to make this happen and just have the ability to grow?
Yeah. So I think a big part of it is we kind of have a running joke where we think like, okay, whatever a sleazy fly by night marketing salesperson would do, we do the exact opposite. So how can we position ourselves as far away from that as possible and do things that if you didn't care, you wouldn't take the time to do? So a great example of that is this Thursday we have a small business get together. Where all the local businesses in the greater Cincinnati area, some of the owners are going to come together at one of our favorite taverns, Camp Springs Tavern. It's awesome. Co-owned by Tyler Sheldon and Keith Neltner. They are two awesome creative friends of mine. And the idea is, I'll give you a little bit about Frankly, tell you what I do, why I do it. But then after that, I want it to be a conversation. I want to hear where your business is at, and if there's any way that we can help you right then and there, but then also in the future. So little things
Yeah.
like that, I think, are kind of the key. It's very partnership focused and it's very tangible. This kind of the marketing world as it exists right now is very like ethereal and very in the clouds in certain ways, and we want to bring that down and make it tangible. We really want to make local business owners feel empowered because, like, at the bottom of it, this isn't unattainable for them. They can do this and they should be doing this because it's very important. They're the ones with the best stories to tell, so they're the ones who deserve to have those stories told.
Yeah, you basically just answered my question that I was preparing in my mind. But this is interesting though, because it looks like you're very like relationship and value based type of person, and that's what you want to build on. It's gonna and it's going to be a huge community spirit when it comes to this.
Yep.
But also, I was curious whether this, like the decision driving this, is it mainly because of the fact that if you wanted to do it at a bigger scale, you would have to be more like those other people that you see just creating all of that noise on social media and how they communicate, how they present themselves? Or is it
Mm-hmm.
mostly because of the love that you have for the local business and the whole idea behind it?
I think it's a healthy dose of both, probably more the second. Um, but at the bottom of it, Zach and we love local businesses. It's just part of I mean, for me, especially, it's in my blood, and seeing how that's kind of the heartbeat of America in a lot of ways. That's how I look at it, is these stories, these unique moments that get to happen. They just don't really happen necessarily at a McDonald's. They happen at the local burger joint where there's the community coming together. They happen at the barber shop where, you meet your friends and they become lifelong buddies of yours because you went to the barbershop instead of Great Clips. It's no knock on a Great Clips or a McDonald's. They're doing a different thing. But where my heart is helping these specific stories be told.
Yeah. Cody, when it comes to the vision that you're creating though, you've mentioned this multiple times. It's just you and Zach, right? It's the two of you guys. Now, when it comes to building out the team and having the ability to serve more people, do you feel like you're going to be leaning more towards the side of like, hey, I just want to, bring the business to this level where we can just kind of like maintain it? Or is it going to
Mm-hmm.
be more about the idea of like, hey, dude, we need to grow. Like we need more people.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I definitely can see a world where either one is the case. Right now, I think the season we're in is leaning on our freelance connections and our partners. And even back at college, I have a professor who was my marketing professor years ago, who I've gotten back in touch with. And he is like, he wants to send people who are fresh out of school in to kind of partner up with us to maybe they go and be the point person at one of these small businesses. It's their first job out of school. I'm entertaining that possibility as well because the idea is like truly at the bottom of what we're trying to do is give you everything you need to be successful from a brand marketing perspective for the lowest amount possible in order to honor your business and help you work functionally. That's the goal. So any creative way that we can solve that problem, we're up for it.
Yeah, I love it, man. When it comes to making this reality and overall just growing and scaling the business in a way that you have been doing over the past few years, I'm curious, 2026, we're sort of still just in the beginning stages of the year. So when it comes to your goal setting, if you look at just the next couple of months, what would you say are those biggest goals, the biggest targets, maybe the revenue that you guys talked about and you want to hit, maybe the milestones that you have set for yourselves? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, well, I definitely think the polished, finished version of Frankly is still relatively young. No doubt about that. So we are still trying to get the word out, about who we are, what we're doing, and why. So as I look toward the next few months, that is the goal. So doing things like our get together on Thursday, things of that nature are going to help us be seen by the community. And we just want to show the community that we really are who we say we are. That's the biggest thing because I have no doubt that I mean, we've been working on this framework for years and years. We've tested it. It works. It's functional. We have no doubts there. So now it's just a matter of getting in front of the right eyes.
What do you think is going to be the most challenging thing about this?
Well, I think the creativity that goes into that and deciding how much time should go into those sorts of ideas, into that vein rather than doing the work, divvying up our time is going to be the challenge because we want to tell as many people as we possibly can that we exist. but we also need to take the time to do the work right. So it's finding that
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective though, because whenever I get to talk about this kind of structure, well, it's two people, right? So it's a different sort of dynamic, and we have to make a decision like, hey, am I the one who's focused more on the like deliverables and fulfillment? Are you going to take the calls and just bring new business in, or how is this going to work? But I
Right.
think also with the world that we live in now and talking about AI every single day, I think that could also be an interesting opportunity for you guys to have a lot of those things automated. Which
Hmm.
also begs the question though, like, have you guys explored that side of your business and maybe into like how AI could be incorporated into your day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, yeah, we definitely have, and it's an interesting line to walk. I really firmly believe that with the AI explosion that we've experienced over the last few years, there's going to become a point where the pendulum kind of starts to spin back, and the AI stuff is going to become status quo in certain instances. And when that happens, the need for a personalized, tailored fit from a human is going to feel that much more premium. So that's something we never really want to compromise on in the way that we do it, which is pretty much completely without any AI assistance. But certainly for the back end things and getting, the structure of the backside of the business, I think AI is a super helpful tool.
Yeah, is there maybe one piece of technology or a tool that you guys already implemented and you could call it a game changer?
Yeah. As far as it, not really anything that's a game changer. I mean, we've really, honestly, we've structured this thing to be as human as possible. That's kind of our MO. We're not anti AI by any stretch of the imagination. We understand that it's a useful tool and you should use it when you need to. But at the same time, I think our biggest value is offering that human touch and the personalization of the community. I think a big thing that we stand on is storytelling has been the way to go since the beginning of time. A good story connects to people, and that's a human story. We really believe that, and that's the thing that I really love to get across to business owners is like that's why this is attainable. There's a lot of bells and whistles. It's very easy to get overwhelmed by looking at marketing as a whole if that's not your background. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, the truth is still the truth, and how to get to the truth is still the same. There's different tools to help you get there in certain instances, but really at the bottom of it, what you're trying to do is make sure people understand who you are and why you do what you do. Anybody who would care will resonate with that message.
Yeah, I think you made a great point as you were talking about the pendulum swing when it comes to AI. And from my perspective, I do believe that already started happening. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of months and years. But also, yeah, I'm definitely getting that vibe that the personal connection, that's what it's going to come down to when it comes to you guys. So I love it. Cody, you build a great business, man. It sounds like you're doing some great work. So thank you so much for actually talking about it on a podcast here. And if we have anybody listening right now that would really like to get in touch with you, maybe look closer into your work, what is the best way for them to go about it?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. I really appreciate it. And best way to get in touch, startspeakingfrankly.com. Have the contact form there. Just get in touch. And yeah, love to tell you a little bit more about my business and hear about yours.
Cool. Well, thanks again. It was a pleasure to have you on here.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or coach, or you have an agency and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from zero to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing, and I'll see you on the next one.